According to almost all scientists, and this is what I learned in medicine, sodium-potassium pumps, ion pumps, and also ion channels, not only do they exist, but more importantly, they are essential for our cells, for our 37 trillion cells, to have an electrical potential. A negative electrical potential, meaning that the cell is negatively charged compared to the outside of the cell. It would be around -70 millivolts, meaning that if we place an electrode in the cell, it is at -70 millivolts. In its resting state, then, there are cells that contract. There are also cells, like neurons, that transmit an electrical impulse, and in that case, there is depolarization, repolarization. But anyway, in its basic state, it is around -70 millivolts. Well, Gerald Pollack, who stands on the shoulders of a giant, Gilbert Ling. Gerald Pollack studied for over 30 years muscle contraction. And then he came across the work of Gilbert Ling. The work of Gilbert Ling proposes this. The sodium pumps, the sodium-potassium pumps, the ionic pumps, the ionic channels might not exist. Maybe they don't exist. So, this video is not to tell you that they don't exist, it's to tell you maybe they don't exist. Maybe the Earth revolves around the Sun and not the other way around. So, what are the arguments? 3 main arguments. These 3 arguments. So, Gilbert Ling presents them. The first is that he simply doesn't see them. We don't see them, we've never seen them. It's ionic channels, it's pumps. We have no precise trace. The only argument from scientists is that there must be pumps that can carry out these ionic exchanges, so that there is this negative electrical potential that I mentioned to you. That's the argument. What Gerald Pollack and Gilbert Ling propose. The first point is that these pumps, we don't see them. Then, the energy required, not for the ionic channels, but this time for the pumps, if they existed, those pumps, because they require ATP actually. They require ATP. They need energy to be able to pump sodium and pump potassium. It seems to me that it's to pump sodium out of the cell and potassium inside. It might be the reverse. But the energy, that is necessary, that would be necessary, if they existed, would correspond to 1/3 of the cell's total energy, which is enormous, and which is probably way too much. As I already mentioned in a public video, the highly costly process for our cells is to create proteins with our DNA. The second thing, the second argument is that, in fact, there would be a need for so many pumps and channels that there wouldn't even be room for the cell membrane, because their place is in the cell membrane. It's at the level of the garden hedge, you see, at the boundary. And, there would be a need for so many that there wouldn't even be enough space. And where are they anyway? That is to say, these ion channels, are we really going to make holes in the membrane as it is accepted like that? And at that point, that is to say, as many channels, as many pumps? No. So, the first argument is not enough energy. Second argument is that there is not enough space, not enough room. The third one, I love it, is that actually, if you put an electrode in jelly, that's what advances Gerald Pollack. It would be at -70 precisely, the electric potential would be negative, around -70 millivolts. What does that mean? All of Gerald Pollack's work that followed, after muscle contraction, advances the existence of structured water, as I have already told you. This structured water, which, when you put water in contact with a hydrophilic surface, so a surface that loves water, there is a separation of charges, there is an exclusion zone. That is to say, we have a zone that is negatively charged. This zone is H3O2 and not H2O. This exclusion zone is the fourth phase of water. What does it exclude? It excludes positive charges that go to another side. And so, what is that? It's a battery. What is it? It's a potential electric. It's a separation of charges. And those negative charges, this H3O2, that's it, the gel. Our water is mainly, according to Gerald Pollack, structured water. And this structured water is not liquid. It's not vapor, it's not solid. It's not the usual 3 phases of water, it's the 4th phase of water. And this 4th phase of water, it has a consistency a little bit like egg white. So we are made of gel, perhaps a bit like clouds. Clouds are also structured water. And so this last argument is magnificent because in fact it means that why would ionic pumps, ionic channels exist if the negative electrical potential exists? From the moment the consistency is structured water, you understand. In our cells we have structured water. So there you go, maybe the pumps don't exist, the weapon pumps. The ionic pumps don't exist and the ionic channels don't exist. Maybe they do exist. This video is not to tell you that they don't exist. It's to tell you that maybe in his time Galileo was right. And he was heavily criticized. Maybe Copernicus was right and he was heavily criticized. I wish you an excellent weekend. And I'll see you very soon. See you tomorrow.